Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Fashion Doll Flashback. In this format, I'm going to be taking a look at obscure moments in fashion doll history. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into how Barbie, in her transition from the mid-90s into the early 2000s, turned cool again, and how that shift was necessary for the longevity of both Barbie as a brand, as well as her legacy as an iconic doll line. Jill Barad had been in charge of Barbie and was ruling Mattel's girls division with an iron fist throughout all of the 80s and 90s, turning her into a billion-dollar property and one of the biggest pop culture icons of all time. But as times change and tastes shift, Barbie stayed mostly the same, becoming an antiquated outlook on what it meant to be a woman for girls of the mid-90s. Alanis Morissette showed that girls can rock. The Spice Girls ushered in an explosion of girl power, and strong athletic heroines of the time such as Lara Croft, Xena the Warrior Princess, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer changed the face of modern women and female empowerment, making Barbie's bubblegum pink, life in plastic, its fantastic world an increasingly foreign concept to young girls. You have to realize that back in the 90s, in addition to the core target demographic of girls aged 3 to 7, Barbie was meant to appeal to older girls beyond 8 years as well as adults. What also started in the late 90s was a shift towards media as a tool for entertainment, away from classic toys. CD-ROM software, audio CDs, VHS tapes, DVDs, and internet websites were more or less a necessity to have the brand continue flourishing.
Okay guys, the first thing that you need to know is that the internet is amazing and it's changing every day. Once you've learned how to get online yourselves, you'll start seeing web pages everywhere.
Barbie had to go with the times, or she'd be left by the wayside on the pile of forgotten toys from yesteryear, along with Cabbage Patch Kids, Mr. Potato Head, and glowworms. Early attempts to overhaul Barbie's image were made while Barad was still overseeing the brand. 1996 saw the release of Olympic gymnast Barbie, during the wake of the Olympic Games taking place in Atlanta that year, showing off Barbie's more athletic side. 1997 was the final year the superstar face was used for Barbie, opting out of the wide-eyed expression and big smile, favoring the more subdued, neutral expression of the Mackie face sculpt instead. 1998 saw the attempt to market Barbie as part of a girl group with Beyond Pink, trying to distill her essence into something more hip and cool and of its time. Attempts like these were futile though and couldn't prevent Barbie from having its very first downturn in sales in the fiscal year of 1998, after having grown steadily during all of the 80s and 90s. Changes needed to happen, and they needed to happen quickly. After more than 20 years at Mattel, Barad, who had become the company's CEO in 1997, was unceremoniously let go of just 3 years later in 2000. Not only was the Barbie brand having a rough patch, but she also burned money spearheading failed investments like the $3.5 billion acquisition of the Learning Company. Barad, a tough-as-nails broad and an integral part of the inner proceedings of Mattel with a vast knowledge of all the dirty laundry of its highest people in charge, didn't go out with a bang though.
Don't fuck with me, fellas!
Her parting gift accumulated to almost $50 million in value.
Congrats, Jill!
With Barad now out of the picture, there was an opportunity to fully inject Barbie with new life and revitalize the brand from scratch. When I took over the girls division at Mattel, Barbie was coming out of a tough year. I feel we kind of missed a beat in terms of where girls were going and what was relevant to girls. Adrienne Fontanella joined Mattel in 1996. She was hired to oversee licensing, turning Barbie from a mere toy into a lifestyle brand. Fontanella had her finger on the pulse of what was trendy at the time. Her outsider's perspective and New York upbringing brought a much-needed edge to Barbie's wholesome Malibu dream house. It was under her leadership that the uber-hip Pushpin Studios were put in charge of designing Barbie style guides from 1996 very well into the mid-2000s. These guides were put together so that licensees from all around the world could use them as a springboard from which they could take ideas from for their designs. From clothing to shoes, stationery, perfumes, cosmetics, accessories, as well as other Barbie-related merchandise and paraphernalia. The diversification of Barbie as an intellectual property was a huge success and led to Fontanella becoming president of Mattel's Girls Division by March of 1999. This behind-the-scenes reshuffling at Mattel brought a breath of fresh air to the proceedings, paving the way for more innovation in an era where children start losing interest in toys much faster than generations before them. To prevent this from happening, Mattel had its own designated Imagination Center, inviting a group of 20 random girls from all backgrounds to come and play it, to see how girls spend their time, how much TV they watch, what they're watching, how long they spend on the computer, what clothes they're wearing, what food they're eating, what music they're listening to. Tried and true brands like Polly Pocket got a makeover, appealing to a whole new generation with Fashion Polly. Fontanella also pushed for activity toys and electronics to be included in the portfolio by introducing the world to Diva Stars, a mashup of Furby and fashion dolls. But what about Barbie though? 1999 saw the release of Generation Girl, targeted towards an older audience, with Barbie moving from the West to the East Coast. Attending an international high school in Manhattan with an all-new set of friends from around the world, who all had a contemporary look and feel and individual personality of their own. In the same year, Barbie had a second facelift, with a brand new head sculpt and a more natural looking face paint. The nipping and tucking continued as she shortly after received a new body with athletic dimensions that had more true-to-life proportions. Barbie's reinvention didn't stop there. The logo changed too, and so did the packaging, away from the monochrome hot pink of yore, adding other color gradients to the mix, like lighter shades of pink, as well as teal, orange and purple. 2001 saw the launch of Barbie Entertainment, with the release of Barbie's very first 3D animated feature-length film, Barbie and the Nutcracker. Highly anticipated by fans, and a significant release for Mattel, as it totally changed the perception of Barbie's entertainment value. By 2005, Barbie Entertainment's 4 film releases had moved over 10 million units, making it a $200 million business. It also kickstarted Barbara Millicent Roberts' career as an actress. Barbie turned into her very own movie star, who would shortly after go on to feature in dozens upon dozens upon dozens of films. In addition to the variety of different products Barbie had now on shelves that weren't dolls, the segmentation of the doll line itself that had started under Barrad's guidance continued on with the Barbie movies and their accompanying dolls that were appealing to a much younger demographic than other lines that emphasized aesthetics over imaginary pretend play by focusing on fashions with hip clothing and cosmetic accessories. I do believe that there is more attention to the fact that there is a 3 to 5 year old age group for dolls, a 6 to 7 year old, and an 8 to 10 year old, and they are very different people. Barbie's transition into the new millennium had been a success creatively, showing Mattel that Barbie could compete with a new crowd in spite of her over 40 years in the business. Despite continuing to rake in billions of dollars in sales revenue, stiff competition from newcomers like Bratz started to get to Miss Roberts. Mattel terminated Fontanella's contract in February of 2003, starting yet another game of musical chairs at Team Barbie. But the groundwork had now been laid for Barbie to keep up with the times and not have a feeling of complacency creep in. You have to be fresh and new. This business is now pretty much like a fashion business, and we are having to produce new products all the time, Fontanella once said. With a vast array of different product lines, an endless supply of licensed merch, movies and doll lines and toys appealing to kids and grown-ups alike, Barbie had been in a position she needed to be to survive. Had she continued on with what she was serving in the 90s, I doubt we would still have her today. Well, for better or for worse, that is. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I might catch you in my next video. Bye for now.